Push recorder built in.
Can play music.
It can, but I don't want it to like burn up battery life. It only has like an hour and a half battery life.
That hasn't been much.
Dude, this is like 1990. The cool part is that the batteries are $15 a piece, so you can just buy like a pack of them. And just
It's like disposable.
yeah, I'm done with this battery. And I mean, that's the good part about cheap batteries. They are in some cases disposable, except that they cost more than a normal battery. So what is Porter's game?
What is Porter's game?
Yeah.
I want to create a
I'm just asking if you go to the first page of my also what is Porter's game?
I wouldn't give a shit.
My only complaint is bacon, but I don't really like bacon that much to complain about it.
Well, I think I'll do it on my laptop. Is there any advantage to it comes up? Because if I have time at the end of demo something.
This is my pocket, get a full one. My laptop.
We'll see. Like I said, video out.
What should I do?
Right there.
Yeah.
Why did you guys not make that?
In 1961, with biology paper.
Why did you use it? I directly on
I bought a block of them.
Yep. You wire it. Or if you really wire it.
Hello.
Yeah. I put it one
I should think so. There you go.
I mean, I don't know if we can do that. I didn't buy it. You know, I didn't eat it separately.
Yep.
Well,
Supposedly it's
like you can't get a handy accessory.
Not yet. But we're going to turn off some lights.
You can't do anything after that. You finish the button and send that. Yeah.
My dad. You did. That's cool.
You can do that.
Oh, yeah. The hard part was
It's an old
they had like 4
machine.
Everything but video. I mean, the first thing I think
and then I finally figured out
connecting this, getting that program and making it go into the
What are you doing on Saturday? Helping Matt what? Yeah, but Saturday night.
Oh, Saturday night?
But I don't have any control
I'm
on
not
that.
entirely sure about Saturday night. I know
The brightness?
Saturday night
No.
I have a meeting with a client at 4.
David?
Saturday night.
Are you guys up?
Come over and find me with Sue.
Huh?
You guys up?
These two are not giving that
What is music? I'm pretty sure it's on the right.
No, I know. I understand that it takes a lot to get you intoxicated, but I'm willing to go that
That's my
extra.
current friend. Pippin is his name.
Another video.
I want to tell you
I drink like every night. Oh, it's really
Oh.
bad.
I used to have a chair like that.
And so I would.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I really
And
want
all you
right
need is one
What bag I got?
the rest of it is. No, I said.
Yeah. Sorry.
I've been looking forward to it all day.
Twins.
No.
Twins.
Basically, what I did, I
What was?
Brother, sister.
corrected everything. It needs to be over and over.
By the same little names.
Yeah. These are my previous friends, Lucy and Linus.
So cute. Are those your cats?
We got them at the Roanoke Park Animal Shelter in 1991. They are deceased now. They've been replaced by him, Pippin, who showed up in our yard one day.
Is he black or gray?
He ran away from the neighbor's house. The neighbors have 10 children. So I think that has something to do with why
I'd probably run away too.
Yeah, I'd run away too.
Okay, more cats. I want to see one.
Is he black?
I want to hold
Yeah.
a slideshow.
He showed up the week after Halloween.
Oh, they're so cute.
Well, it's noon, so welcome everybody. Next week, we'll hear from Ron Laperis, who was a former student of mine and who worked for a long time with Citrix, and who will be here to talk about the benefits and detriments of full disk encryption. Today I have the pleasure and honor of introducing you one of our own, a good friend of mine, Professor Emeritus of Sonoma State, Bob Plantz, who's going to tell you how to publish your masterpiece online. So let's welcome the speaker.
Okay, so here's the title page, and now the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to give you a history of how I have written my book, and as most of you know, or many of you know, self-published it. One of the things I'm working with now, and you'll learn why I'm doing this, I want to do this later as I go through the talk, is it's currently written in LaTeX, and I want to convert it. And that will come out later in the talk. What we're really going to be doing here is looking under the hood of the software you use to write your own book or to publish it. And I want to emphasize that this is a work in progress. George said that I would be telling you how to write your own book. Not really. What I'm really going to be doing is talking to you about the software that's going on underneath. And this is, as you'll learn through the talk, this is a work in progress. As we are sitting here, people are working on how to solve this problem. It's not solved yet by a long shot. Okay, I had several things that I kind of start out with that I want to do. I would like to make it both available for print and e-reading, and of course you want the same source for that, because keeping two sources, a lot of you have used my book and you know it's a big book. Keeping the sources the same when you have two different ones simply won't work. I also, since I'm self-publishing, would like for the tools to be low cost, preferably free. Okay? And I want to keep things pretty simple as possible. I tend to like open standards and multi-platform stuff. I don't like locking people into one way of doing things. I don't like it, and I don't like doing that to other people. Now, when you're writing something, there are several things that it involves. Number one is the content. That's the actual words that you write and the pictures you create and all of that. The other thing is the organization. You break it down into paragraphs and sections and things like that. So there's a certain organization that more or less the author does. And why did you go ahead, stupid machine? The second part is the presentation. And here I'm talking about fonts and what it looks like on the page. And that's more or less the publisher. But there's a lot of interaction between the two. And of course, if you're self-publishing, then you have to do both things. Okay? In fact, there are many times that the publisher and the author get into huge arguments over the interaction between these things. Okay, so I'm going to start out with a little history of printing here. And up into, in the late 19th century, they used letters from that were made from lead, a mixture of lead and tin, and they assembled them by hand. And to kind of give you a feel, I have some figures from a biology paper that was published back in the early 60s. These are not individual letters put together, but this will give you a feel for what printing used to be like. I believe they are the lead tin mixture, so don't chew on them. Not good for you. In 1960, xerography was invented, which is an electronic photocopy type thing. Okay, so this brought about a lot of changes. And in particular, in the 60s and 70s, we saw laser printers, impact printers, inkjet printers. Now you could start doing it, at least in the 60s and 70s, in a business or a university. They could have these devices and they could print their own stuff. Up until then, it was just, you had to go out someplace else and get a professional to do it. Now, another big thing that happened, but still, writing for these devices was clumsy at best. I mean, it was ugly, let's face it. When we used to write papers back then, they were ugly. And in 78, 79, Donald Knuth, who's a computer science and math professor at Stanford, invented a typesetting language, and along with the software to do it, called TeX. And this X here is really the Greek letter chi, so it's pronounced TeX. Okay. And with TeX, you could it's a typesetting language, and so you can set these beautiful pages, create these beautiful pages. Then in 85, Apple introduced the laser writer, and suddenly we had desktop publishing. Now anybody could set up a print shop, basically, in your own home and start printing things. So huge changes from these blocks that I'm passing around. And then in 93, another significant change, PDF. And so you could pass PDF documents around, and the reader was free, and anybody could read it. In 99, they started creating standards, the open ebook publication structure, which were some standards for that they were starting to create for online reading, ebooks. In 2007, the open standard epub came about, and that same year Kindle came about. Now, of course, the difference here is that epub is open and the Kindle, as you know, is proprietary. And then in 2010, in fact, on the way down here from my house, I'm listening to the Steve Jobs book. I have it on CD. And they were talking about, just coincidentally, I'm at the point now where the iBook came about, iBook standard. And of course, that's also proprietary. So that kind of gives you a feel of how, printing has changed dramatically in just really the last half of the 20th century and this century. Really big, huge changes. So now self-publishing is something you can do. Now, what I want to do here is to kind of give you a feel for how my book developed and why I wrote it. I thought I'd give you a little history of assembly language here at Sonoma State. And the first phase, when I came here in 1983, and we were using Digital Equipment Corporation PDP-11. This building was the library, And downstairs in that corner over there where the service center, customer service or whatever they call it, euphemism they use, was the computer center. And they had a PDP-11 in there. There were no personal computers on campus to speak of, and we had terminals around in our offices, and there was one terminal lab down there that you were allowed to go into limited times of the day and use these terminals to work online with the PDP-11. And we taught assembly language on that thing. It was a timeshare system, so you had to go use one of the terminals in the terminal lab there. And the book we used was Programming in Assembly Language, Macro 11, by, I'm not sure how he pronounces his name, Sol, whatever. And it was quite a good book for the times. Okay. Notice here, macro. The language that they used was called Macro 11, and people wrote a lot of macros then. Before I came here, I was working as an assembly language programmer. I'd been doing that in industry for quite a few years. And the real stuff, the good stuff, was all written in assembly language. I was working mostly on medical devices, like I helped design a CT scanner and stuff like that. And I also worked for a company that was Matson Shipping, which is a shipping company. We were developing a system to help them keep track of their shipping containers and control the cranes and all of that. That was all done in assembly language. So really good applications were written in assembly language in those days. And macros were used a lot because, as most of you know, writing in assembly language is tedious. Okay, phase 2, we finally got our own computer lab. They were Macintosh 2s. It had a 60,020, this is Motorola CPU in it. And they had color monitors. And I'll tell you a little story here. We were a little short on our budget, and I was department chair at the time, and we needed more money. We couldn't afford the color monitors. And so the dean said to me, who was moderately savvy about computers, he was actually a biology professor, he said, well, isn't the color monitor the whole reason to get a Macintosh? So I crossed my fingers behind my back and I said yes. So we had nice color monitors. He has since moved on to another campus or university, so nobody can do anything to him. So we started using the Motorola 68000 on the Macintosh in 1987. The book we used was a really pretty good book, Assembly Language and Systems Programming for the M68000 family. Oh, by the way, I should have mentioned this at the beginning. This talk in PowerPoint is all available online. I put it on my website, so if you're taking notes, you can sketch a little more, I suppose. You don't have to copy the slides. That's available. And if anybody has any problems with the PowerPoint format, send me email and I'll do a PDF version for you. Okay. So anyway, this is a pretty good book by Ford and Top, and this book came with a toy assembler that ran on the Macintosh. It was just a very limited assembler, but it was more than enough for our purposes, and it was cheap. In fact, students could buy the assembler with the manual for $14. If they had a Mac, then they could even run it at home. So it was pretty good. But in 1999, Apple upgraded their operating system, and this assembler would no longer work. And we asked if they would change it, and they said no. And so we offered to change it for free or modify it for free and give it back to them, and they said no. So basically, it wasn't a good situation. Meanwhile, we had added a PC lab that had, I can't remember whether it had Intel or AMD processors in it, probably Intel's then, but they were 32-bit. And we started thinking more about Linux, running Linux. The books that were available then did not match our philosophy. By this time, we realized, as I say in the preface to my book, not quite in these words, but I think you're an idiot if you try to write programs in assembly language. And I'm saying this as a person who's done it most of my professional life, and I love it. It's my favorite language, but it's crazy nowadays. The programs are simply too complex. And so we realized that our goal was no longer to teach you how to write programs in assembly language, but to show you how computers actually work at the assembly language level. And so our whole philosophy had changed with the times, as the times had changed. And there were simply no books available that match this philosophy. In fact, if you go out there, I'll tell you, mine is the only one that takes this approach. All the others I have seen are, here's how to write the next killer app in assembly language. And as a friend of mine said, on the Matson project, as we were wrapping it up, the manager said, if anybody ever tells me he's going to write a program in assembly language again, I'm going to shoot him and put him out of his misery. Okay, so... And certainly there were no books for Linux. And we wanted to run Linux, which uses the AT&T syntax, so it could be very confusing. So that's when I said, okay, I'm going to write my own book. And I originally did it in HTML, and it was all online, and I thought that was really cool, because now you can read my book online and it would be free. And then I switched to the 64-bit, I think it was around 2009 when I made that change. So, but, what happened here? Oh, okay. What happened was my brain got weird. What I'm going to do, I'm going to show you some examples here. And each of these examples will produce something like this. I'm going to use several different languages to do this. And I grade, the examples I show you won't do the whole thing here. I grade out the parts I'm not showing you in the examples. But I wanted you to see the presentation part here. Notice that in the U.S., it's common to start, not to indent the first paragraph and then indent the second paragraph. Now, or in subsequent paragraphs. Now, this is not the way it's done in Europe. It's more common to not indent any of them and leave space. And if you look at any O'Reilly books, you'll see that's what they do. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about the presentation, how the thing actually comes out looking. Now, in HTML, again, just the bold or the black part I showed you, not the grayed out ones. It would look something like this, and you have these tags. Now, what I've done here, if you remember, I italicized the first in the first paragraph, and I bolded second in the second one. And so in the tags I'm using here, I say italics and bold. But a better way to do it is to, in the organization of it, I say I want to emphasize this word, and I want to make this a strong emphasis, and then I leave it up to the presentation media, whatever it is, your browser. You as a user may be able to change it. Most browsers will italicize this and bold this, but they don't have to. That's a presentation issue. Okay? Well, students didn't like it. Would anybody like to guess why?
Incompatibilities with browsers.
That didn't turn out to be much of an issue.
You have to be constantly connected to the internet.
And you can't carry it with you.
Okay, you guys nailed it. At least that's my take. Portability and broadband. I mean, we're talking 1999 here. We're spoiled these days. I get upset when my thing doesn't give me several megabits download. I'm on the phone. What's going on here? We use dial-up. We went over the telephone. 56K. Okay, so So then I converted it to Word. I said, okay, I'll do the. What was happening is students were printing out these web pages and using up all of our paper in our lab. So we couldn't keep up with it, and so it was crazy. So I decided I would convert it all to Word and then package it and sell it as a reader in the bookstore. Now what I'm doing here is this is only RTF Word. I mean, the real Word format is totally crazy. But I want you to see that it really is a markup language under the hood. See all these tags that are marking it up here? Okay, so under the hood, it's a markup language, even RTF, and of course the real Word format is. Now, if you're going to sit down and write a book, almost all paper publishers and even a lot of ebook publishers nowadays like it in Word. They have all the tools, expensive tools, the people and everything to convert it. So they really like it. But as a self-publisher, Word does not deal well with chapters. And it was driving me crazy. It doesn't have a concept of chapters. You have to use sections. You can mimic it with sections. But you also have to use sections for other things. And the real issue is that the header at the top of each page is tied to the section. So if I change the section to get 2 columns, then that would change the header. Okay. This baldness is a result of that. Pulled all my hair out. I mean, I couldn't make it work. So then I converted it to LaTeX, which is a set of macros for the text language. And it's a markup language. All of these are markup languages. But notice here that text italic. I have to specify I want this italic. I have to specify that I want this boldface. And in fact, LaTeX it's a typesetting system, but you have to do the content organization and the presentation all at once. You have to do everything. You specify what the page is going to look like, is what you do. So it doesn't separate the two things out, or the different things out here. You get great PDF output. Most of you guys know that. You've seen my book. But there's a problem with. There's some problems. First of all, it's nice for e-readers. I mean, the first time I saw this on an iPhone, I thought, wow. It's cool because everything is, you can search easily. It's all hyperlinked. So the good news is here that I get to specify exactly what it looks like. All the text formatting and everything. The bad news is I specify all the text formatting, which means that when you look at it on your mobile device, it's crazy. I mean, it doesn't fit right. You have to scrunch it down. You have to window back and forth and do things like that. PDF on mobile devices that come in a variety of sizes sucks, basically. So that led me to epub. Now epub, the format here is there's a directory, there's a file in there that has to be named MindType, and it has to have that text in it. That line of text, that single line, that's it. Okay? Then the next thing is a directory, and I think this name is required, called beta-in. And it has a file in here called container. It's XML, really. And what that does is it points. So this is another directory inside the other one, and it points to the file definition that defines the file that contains or defines all the content of the book. Now, normally or commonly, what it's done is another directory or folder. I think this stands for Open Electronic Book Publishing Standards or something like that. It would be a good Jeopardy question. And in there's another file called content .opf that has all of the metadata, the name of the author, the reading order of the chapter, stuff like that. Now, this one here, talk.ncx, is the book table of contents. And I don't think these names they can be altered slightly because that's all specified in this file up here. I'm pretty sure that's the way it works. Now, these directories or folders are not required. You can have everything just in this one big directory. But it's common to, especially if you have something like a big book or something, to have subdirectories in here. These names you make up yourself. So one for the basic text, which is written in XHTML. And then there's style sheets, and you can have graphics, and it supports GIF, PNG, JPEG, SVG is scalable vector graphics. Okay? Then when you get it all done, you zip it and change the extension to epub. Bingo. Okay, so I said, well, I want to convert my book to epub. So I tried Caliper. It has, I don't know if any of you downloaded it. It's free. It converts from PDF to EPUB. There's another program called PDF to EPUB. Pandoc I found to be actually one of the best for my purposes. There's a gazillion of them. You can do it online. You can buy them, et cetera, et cetera. I tried lots of them. They all choke on the math equations. Every single one of them. Big time. I mean, crash. Okay? So, that led me to other ways. And there's a set of actually, there are Python scripts called docutils. And it uses a language called restructured text. This grew from a language called structured text. The guy that upgraded it called it restructured text. But notice how simple it is. It uses white space. This does not say italic. This says emphasis. The double asterisk say strong emphasis. So you specify only the content and organization. Chapters are done by a blank line. This specifies a heading by putting the lines over and under. You can do subheadings with just a single line underneath. It's a really cool language. It's really simple. And those of you who know Python know that that's a lot how Python works. There are all these Python scripts, like RST, restructured text to HTML. They're all Python scripts. So with that one source, you can produce lots of different formats, if you will, or other markup languages from it. So it's pretty cool. As we speak, people are trying to figure out how to do math in this. If you download it on like an Ubuntu, their version is a few months old, and it doesn't have math. And so I had to go find the original source, and it kind of does math. All of this is being done as we speak. Another one is DocBook, which uses a different kind, it's a different language, but again, it's you specify the content here, not the actual presentation. So I say emphasis here, roll bold, and things like that. So it's another markup language. It's cool because you can produce, again, lots of different formats: HTML, LaTeX, PDF, directly, EPUB, etc. And excuse me, it uses a schema for the conversions. Before 5.0, it uses DDTs. This was created by O'Reilly and Hal Computer back in the early 90s. This is how. This is part of the tool chain that O'Reilly uses to produce books. They use DocBook a lot. Okay? So it's a lot more complex than docutils, but there are a lot more features. Obviously, if O'Reilly is producing books from it, you have a lot more features available to you. So, I'm in my mind, I'm going back and forth. Which one do I want to use? I've been experimenting with both, etc. Now, let me talk about math. In Word, it presents you, I don't know how many have done this, but with this equation editor that's graphic, and then it has templates, and you select one of the templates from a menu, and then you put your cursor in here, and you type things, and et cetera, et cetera. So you construct it that way. By the way, this is a PNG image, and a little bit later in the talk, you'll understand or appreciate why I mentioned that. Now, I mentioned that EPUB under the hood is basically HTML. So I want to talk about how to do equations in HTML and therefore EPUB. I can create a PNG image, but you saw in the previous slide why that sucks. I mean, you can't blow it up. It's got lots of problems. For one thing, it doesn't match the surrounding text. You change, it's hard to place it. You change the fonts. And some people, on an e-reader, the user can change fonts, things like that, and it doesn't work as well. You saw in the previous slide, it doesn't print well, scale well, print well, because it was real tiny and I blew it up and it all got blurry and crazy. You can't copy it if you want to copy and paste from a book, et cetera, et cetera. There's a better way to do math is scalable vector graphics. It prints a little nicer and things like that, but it's still not very good. Okay. What's happening is in the HTML world, we're moving to math markup language, math ML. MathJax is a library of JavaScripts that render the math. So it's a markup language, ML. And so you can do things like I showed previously and create these equations and then run it through MathJax. And browsers, in fact, the latest Firefox, I think they've built the libraries in. They don't have to depend on MathJax, I don't think. I'm not sure where all that is at this point, but in the Firefox, I can create MathML and it's beautiful. Okay, but this is just happening. I mean, Firefox on my laptop or my desktop, on my tablet, no, doesn't work yet. Now, there are EPUB authoring programs around. Sigil is a free one. There's Apple just released iBook Author that's free. Adobe Creative Design Suite 5.5 if you want to get into it big time. The $4.99 is an educational price, and I think you're not supposed to sell your book if you use that or something like that. I don't know how that works, but that's more than I want to spend. But the point is that there are commercial solutions to all of this, obviously. I want to say something about Apple's iBooks Author. It's a WYSIWYG writing interactive content animation. So that's what I read in their ads. I haven't used it yet. Okay, so this is just reading their ads. It only runs on a Mac. My Mac is the one I stopped buying them years ago. I have a G4 at home. It won't run on that. And I don't feel like buying a Mac. I guess that buying a new Mac would be a better deal than buying an Adobe for the price I could get it. You can only read it on an iPad. So if those of you who, I don't have an iPad. I bought an Android tablet. So I wouldn't be able to read the books. And I don't like doing that to people.
They don't work on a Mac either?
Yeah, I don't know if they must, because you can compose on the Mac, but they don't work on the iPhone, for example. That's what I've heard.
I think they brought iBooks over to those other two platforms by now.
Do you?
I'm pretty sure they have. Or at least they will.
Well, they will. They will. Yeah, I mean, the other people will create software that will let you read it. And Jobs finally relented on like iTunes and stuff like that. And allow them. You can only distribute your product through the iBook store. And so I recommend reading the book, Isaacson's book, if you want to know more about the Apple way of doing things. And I just like having choices. It's just me. Apple makes great products, but I like choices. So, what do we need these days? We need better viewing software on tablets. I mentioned already that if I use MathML on my Android, on my laptop, my desktop, it shows up beautifully on Firefox. I have Firefox on my Android, and it doesn't render it. Okay, so we need more software to do these things, and software to read ebooks or iBooks on any platform. We need better authoring tools. Nobody in their right mind is going to sit down. This goes back to my remarks about assembly language. I mean, I'm a weirdo. I like assembly language. I'm willing to sit there and type in all of the tags and all of that. Not very many authors are willing to do that. Okay, so it's got to be WYSIWYG. Apple is certainly going the right way with iBooks Author. It's the way it's got to be. A lot of this stuff is open source, and so there are a lot of opportunities to contribute to this better software. You can get involved and do this stuff. Where are we going? Or I should say, where am I going? I'm still trying to decide. Do I want to use docutils, docbooks, sigil? I make up little sample documents, and I look at them, and they read beautifully on my Caliber, and then I put them over on my tablet zip. They look like garbage. And so there's, I don't know exactly which one I'm going to use yet. One of the things that is coming up now, of course, is HTML 5.0 and epub 3.0. They're working on the standards now, and it will include HTML 5.0, MathML, things like that. But this is stuff that's going on right now. It's not readily available yet, and it certainly doesn't run on my Android tablet. Okay, again, iBooks, they've got the right idea. We're going to have books that will allow user interaction. There'll be animation. Those of you who have used my book know that I have figures in there showing how a stack changes as you push things on a stack. My entire life I've been teaching this, and I taught this stuff. I wanted to have some way of animating that. Now, how cool would it be if you're reading this section of the book and you just click a button or tap a button and it shows the stack changing? I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I think is really, it's clear that's where we're going. So, I started out saying I want a source that does both print and electronic format. Show of hands, of those that have, how many of you have bought the print version of my book?
Oh.
You did.
Yeah, only because it was the first semester that Mike Lyle offered it at SRJC, and you hadn't given us access to the PDF just yet.
Just yet, okay. So the ones that who used it, that was your only choice in those days, was to get the print version. but I've gone to the classes where the book is used, and all the students say they don't. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here. It doesn't matter. I don't get any money from it whatsoever. But even if you had to pay the same amount for the electronic version, my take is most of you would do that.
Yeah.
It's the way it is now. And I mean, it's about $25 over there. Actually, my dream is to make it available for about $10. As an epub book. That would be really neat. So I'm actually thinking about just dropping the print version completely. I've been talking about epub, which is HTML under the hood. HTML, at least on my laptop and desktop, reads MathML already. Do I want to make it just available in HTML? I mean, why is it wrapped up in epub? Part of the reason it's wrapped up in epub, of course, is so that the vendors can put copy protection stuff on it. And I started out years ago thinking, how can I? My book is copyrighted. How can I make it, keep people from stealing it from me, and all of that? And I'll tell you another little story. In 2009, I tried to find publishers over the years, and Addison Wesley actually sent it out for a review. And what they do is they send it to 8 professors of universities around the country who were teaching the class, and they gave me the review remarks. Half of them wanted to use the book. The other half thought it was good but not appropriate. I mean, they all loved it. So I can brag and say I've written a good book. Addison Wesley said the market's not big enough, and so they decided not to publish it. Okay, if I can't get it published and get rich on it, I don't think any of you can either. Okay, so I've given up on trying to be overprotective and et cetera, because I don't think anybody's going to. There's nothing to rip off, basically, except my ideas. So, when I'm talking about, HTML, am I going in circles here? I mean, but this is the way I started the book. It's crazy. Okay, I want to give some credits here for why my book is good. And I just told you it is good. The first thing is teaching the class many years and students asking dumb questions. And there's no such thing as a dumb question. Well, students have asked me a lot of questions over the years that have made me think about how to better explain things, because they come into it with a totally naive view in what to me was absolutely obvious because I'd been doing it for decades. Doesn't make any sense to somebody who's never seen it before. So students asked a lot of questions, and that made me think about how to better explain it. It made me understand it better. If I can't explain something well, my take is I'm the one who doesn't understand it. Okay, so it helped my understanding and my presentation. There were a lot of students, one of them sitting right here, over the years who have sent me a lot of typos and errors. They find them in the book. I solicit those in every class I visit. That helps me make it a better book. It's not perfect. It'll never be. One of the things I've learned about writing is it's never perfect. And then, of course, other faculty have taught from this book, and they've given me lots of good ideas. Professor Watt back there has given me good ideas about when I folded in the stuff on hardware. She had some ideas about that. And over the years, the main thing faculty tell me is, here's where the students get stuck. So that's what I want to know. Where are you getting confused? Where do you get stuck? Finally, most of you know my department website, I think, but if you go there, then I've already posted this this file there. You can click on it and download it and view it. So that's it, I think. Any questions, comments?
Yeah. So you mentioned Word's math equation editor.
Yeah.
And that you did say like this is a PNG, and you is that how Word is doing it, or they're not?
No, I did a screenshot of that.
Okay, that's all you meant by that.
Yeah.
Got it.
Sorry, good. Yeah, it's because I couldn't figure out how to do something better with Word. No, when you do that in Word and then you print it out, it looks great.
Pretty nice.
Yeah, it's very nice. But it doesn't show up on an epub. Any other?
What is missing in Word is to be able to write a whole book.
To write a whole book?
Yeah, to be able to have a Word to write according to the contents of the book.
The part that I got stuck on was trying to make chapters, put it in individual chapters. And now this was in 99. No, it was about 2001 or 2, I think. And Word, I haven't tried it in the latest version. They've added a gazillion features that I suspect nobody ever uses. But anyway, I do notice that there's no command in there for chapter. And the problem was that to mimic a chapter, you have to create a section. You can do that. But then when you create inside that chapter another section, you have to create a section. For example, I have places where I want 2 columns. So I need another section. And the header at the top of the page is linked to the section. So it changes your header. Yeah. And one day I was working on it, and I was ending up with like a 49-point font in my header about halfway through the book. And so I would fix that, and then it would move to another area. And at that point, out. Something that's made for writing books.
You didn't mention Kindle, although I think I know what you might feel about it.
Well, the Kindle and with the, if you write an epub, if I'm successful at getting it an epub, then I could submit it either to they convert easily to Kindle. So I could provide it to Amazon, sell it through Amazon. They could convert it to Kindle because the Kindle format and the iBook format, they're based on EPUB.
It's like encrypted EPUB.
Well, they've made changes in there. It's like the browsers. You write code that runs on Firefox and it doesn't run on Internet Explorer if you use some of the special features. So they've purposely gone in there and mix things up to keep it their own so-called format. But the conversion from EPUB to either Kindle or iBook, I'm told, is quite easy. So, and I know when I look on their website, they will accept the EPUB format. Okay, well, I think that's it. I don't.
Thank you, Bob. I'll collect the papers. And so we're coming to Darwin 28 is for pizza, right?
No, I didn't bring lunch.
So if Apple has the authors for me, the right book. Why is it so hard for Microsoft to convert Word into Windows authors?
I mean, it presumably isn't very hard.
Yeah. Is there any commercial reason?
Well, it could be. There could be. Oh, thank you. There could be. Don't forget, Apple does all kinds of. They give patents.
Oh, good. You got it.
They patent everything. They patent the idea of
and that was interesting.
Also,
touch. Everything they can possibly patent. They do the idea of
the screen lock, for example, sliding.
The touch thing, the gestures on the touch screen, and they patent. I mean, people get into fights.
see, with that issue with the chapters, I mean, is, you know, letters is around for a long time, and they have this
most of the
way to deal with the chapters. And I wonder why Microsoft never put attention in that to really make Word into a lack of creativity.
In my view, they have spent too much effort trying to add little features that nobody ever uses, rather than something like that.
Yeah.
You know, the world is full of examples of people doing stupid things.
Well, yes, we've been through all those many times. So is there anything pushing you for restructured text or doc books? Like, is there any advantage that you're looking at right now that might say you might go to this, but you still don't know?
The advantage of documents is it's simple.
Yeah.
The disadvantage is
it's simple.
It's simple. It's lacking
the numbers and you can't
that's
which is kind of what is computing in the
part of it is what I'm going through is, do I want to basically make the presentation simpler?
So basically, I see where you're going at.
Yeah. So that's a real question. And now, I mean, it's just now.
And that's the question: are those secure?
You got your laptop, right?
Yeah.
You got it.
econometrics or know of that class? How
I
brutal is that class?
I know of it. Well, it's different than the way I understand it is Chan doesn't, like, he has the students using data. He doesn't really understand data very well. So he's going more into the theory part of it. So there's a lot of math and stuff. But apparently he still uses his data, but he doesn't know how to play with Go.
He just kind of expects you just to do it.
I'm thinking about taking it. I don't know. Because there's a couple of things next semester. Like I'm looking at research doing a behavioral economics course, which is like doing experimental stuff.
Okay.
That looks pretty interesting. I mean, he hasn't looked up the course description yet, but it sounds like a good class.
No, it's work. Definitely don't want to answer it.
And then so I don't know. I'm doing 3 applications this semester, so I don't know but econometrics and all 3 of them really only be operating. I mean, it's a good one. And they use it all this semester. So like 417 is this semester. I would pick it. But it will be next semester.
Yes, that's the last class I think that I have to take before I graduate. So
you have to take
I don't have to take that class, or probably another option or two. That's what Tyler said. I recommend it. Prepared for that class.
I wasn't prepared for that. I just turned in a paper that
Wow.
Everything's falling apart, and so Dr. West is going to make sure that he just gives me an A. That way, my grade point doesn't suffer as a result. He's your cohort. He's your colleague.
I'm sympathetic against what she's done. That's what I was part.
Yeah, absolutely. That's points. No, I'm kidding.
Is about central banking and the relationship to day-to-day banks, I guess.